That you really are experiencing those things. This is the problem of other minds solved, I think. That is to say, it's not possible I'm the only sentient being on Earth and all the rest of you are a bunch of zombies walking around with the lights out. No, the chances are pretty good. I'm not special. I'm just like you. We're all sentient. If I am, you are, and so on. So I think it's unreasonable for the experiencer to say mine's different than everybody else's. They're all hallucinating. And I think I wrote about in the Believing Brain. Maybe it wasn't there, but the three Christs of Ypsilanti. No, I think I did write about that. The psychiatrist in Ypsilanti, Michigan, at the mental hospital there, had three different patients who each of them thought they were Jesus. And so he thought, well, I'll just put them all in the room together and see what happens. And each of them said, well, these other two people are crazy.
Wow.
Okay.
Did you know I interviewed the Australian Jesus here on Myth Vision? I actually interviewed him on the show. 2 hours long. I was so nice to him. And but he is very passive aggressive. And so long story short, the whole time we finally get to this point where I was able to kind of poke. And he was saying, I said, what do you say about the Russian Jesus? There's a couple guys out there that are like having serious followers. What do you think? And he goes, well, in the spirit realm, there are spirits that are pretending to be Jesus, and they're cloaking, whatever that even means, these people, and they're speaking to them, telling them that they're Jesus, and they really think they are. And I said, wow, could you be overcloaked by a spirit telling you that you're the real one?
Good.
And he's like,
good
no, he said, no, I don't change. I've been the same before the spirit overcloaks me. I'm the same. But you know what's funny? He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness elder. He was married and had kids before with a woman with 2 children. And now all of a sudden he's with a new girl. She's supposedly Mary Magdalene, his wife.
Of course.
The Bible is wrong. All right. He knows the true history, but it gets really weird. I don't want to waste too much time, but there's some weird stuff.
No, that's a great story. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that shows you the power of belief. Assuming that he's not just making this up. Probably he did have some kind of unusual experience like that. And, who knows what else was going on, leaving his wife for this other woman. Maybe there was something a little more basic there with human sexual psychology. But in any case, that just shows the power of belief, and also how difficult it is to test something like that. Whereas he's applying principles of skepticism to other people, like, oh yes, well they were hallucinating, or they were, they had this or that, but not me. Right? It's a little bit like when I challenge Christians who tell me that the resurrection really happened. It was a miracle. And, Jesus performed other miracles, walking on water and the loaves of bread and raising, Lazarus from the dead and so on. And it's like, well, how do you know this happened? Well, because, lots of people saw it and they talked about it and they were, amazed and in awe and wonder. It's like, well, have you heard of Satya Sai Baba in India? The early 20th century fakir, this sort of guru. He does all the same thing, that he raised the dead and levitated and performed miracles and walk on water and the whole thing. And many millions in the 20th century. This isn't, like 2,000 years ago. This is like, current events. And so, why isn't that true? Well, because, no, those are fake, magicians. They're doing tricks. Well, how do you know your guy didn't do the tricks? Well, no, because, the conviction of the believers, the people that believe, these fakirs in India, they believe. They're not blind. They believe it. And so it reminds me of skeptics who tell me, oh, I'm a total skeptic. I love your work, but I saw this one thing. This guy bent this spoon, and I know about Uri Geller and the this and that, but he bent it in a way that was the neck was twisted, and there was no possible way, because I've tried it. I can't do it. And I remember this happened during a cruise I did to the Bermuda Triangle on Scientific American. So here is a bunch of people that subscribe to Scientific American. So they're all presumably, pretty rational. And as he's telling me the story about the spoon, I slide the spoon beneath my lap, and I do this little twist move where you take the bowl and the handle and you just twist it like that, and it looks like it's twisted this way, but it's actually twisted that way. It's kind of hard to show on a video, but I don't have a spoon here with me. But my point is, it's a pretty simple magic trick. It took me like 10 seconds to do it, and then I put it back next to my plate. He didn't see any of this because he's just talking, and then I just held it up. I said, "You mean like this?" And he's like, "Oh, crap." I go, "Yeah, it's just a trick." "How'd you do it?" I'm like, "All right, so I'll show you." So I showed him. He's like, "Oh, okay." Now, Randy always made this point that exposing how the trick is done is not necessarily a good thing, because there may be some other way that the person is doing it, and that the person who now knows how that magic trick is done says, "But he didn't do that. He did something else." It's like, okay.
Who cares?
So here the principle is, why would you assume that, all these other things are fake? Because we know how they're done. But that one right there, I mean, do you think that Copperfield actually walks through a wall? Do you think he actually makes the Statue of Liberty disappear through some quantum physics thing? Well, no, of course not. I know it's a trick. Right. Well, why would you think the guy sitting at your table at a restaurant is actually, using quantum physics to bend the spoon instead of what's more likely? So we call this the what's more likely principle.
All I could say is never forget. I know that there's cognitive dissonance in the world. I experienced it. Dr. Shermer's experienced it, but we are Myth Vision.